Hello, my name is Bonnie and this is my channel, A Knitter Obsessed. This is my knitting podcast where I talk about all things knitting currently going on in my life, which is typically in the form of all of the projects I'm currently working on and what my upcoming plans are. So today, it's been quite a while since my last podcast episode. I went a couple weeks longer than I typically like because I ended up getting very sick a couple of weeks ago. And it really took me out. I fully lost my voice, so filming wasn't really an option. And then just as I was starting to get better, I actually had Nutcracker rehearsals and then our performance for the year. And so yeah, if you don't know, if you're a little new here, I am a ballet dancer on the side as a hobby, and I teach some ballet. And so every year I take part in my studio's Nutcracker performance. And this year I was the Mouse Queen and Mother Gijon, or a Mother Ginger is how some productions call it. And I'll put up a couple of pictures of me in the costumes because it was fun. We took them backstage. I don't have the official performance pictures yet, but it was a ton of fun and I had such a great time. But it was also absolutely exhausting. So it was 4 days of rehearsals and then 4 shows the next 3 days, so 7 days total of driving back and forth and dancing and all of that. So it was a very exhausting process, but very worth it and a ton of fun. So that's why the podcast got put on hold for a little bit, but I am back now and excited to talk through my projects with you guys. So for today, I have, I have 3-ish, could maybe consider it 2, finished objects that I'm excited to go through with you, and then a couple of whips, and then I kind of wanted to go through my upcoming plans and do a little bit of review of how my fall plans went. So I have a video up that I put up a few months ago with my plans for the fall season, so September, October and November, and what I wanted to get knit. And I wanted to kind of go through what I thought I would get done and see what I actually got done, and then from there just talk about what my plans are coming up for the next couple of months and just show you guys where I'm at. So it's quite a lot to go through. I'm gonna jump on into it and let's get started. For finished objects, I'm just gonna jump into the big one. So I'm not wearing it right now because it is actually still a little bit damp and I probably shouldn't even be messing with it as much as I am. But I wanted to show it off to you guys, and I really did put off filming for as long as I could today to try and give this a chance to dry, but it's quite stormy and rainy and cold here today, and so it just wasn't going to make it in time, and I didn't want to put off filming any longer. But I will hold it up for you, and I'm hoping by the time I am getting through to editing this that it will be dry, and I will be able to put up some B-roll of me wearing this around. So hopefully you'll be seeing that B-roll as I'm talking about this. But this is my finished Oslo sweater. So if you've been watching the podcast, you're probably not surprised that I finished this. It was very close to being done on my last podcast episode. So I finally finished it, and here she is in all of her glory. So like I said, she's still a little damp, but you can see that she's really gotten very drapey with blocking, which I really like. The fabric is so fuzzy. I am so happy with this project, guys. It's so nice. So some stats about the project. This is the Oslo Sweater by Petite Knit. This is my first ever Petite Knit pattern, and I wasn't really sure what to expect because obviously people love Petite Knit. She's one of the most famous designers out there, and so I was interested to see what her pattern was going to be like. And I gotta say, after this pattern, I think the hype is real. I get it, because this is the little bit that I've tried this on. I actually tried it on damp just because I was so impatient. But this is one of the best fitting sweaters that I have ever made. It is so flattering. I love it. I knit this with Silver Pennies yarn that I picked up at Lambtown Fiber Festival over in Dixon a few months ago. This is her Yak U sock base, which is I believe it's a merino yak and nylon blend. I don't remember the exact breakdown and I don't have the yarn band anymore. But the sock yarn is in the colorway Aquamarine, and then it's held with her Fluff and Stuff, which is her alpaca silk, brushed alpaca silk, in the colorway Jade. And it makes this stunning, just absolutely stunning jade green color, which I actually think for once my camera's picking up pretty close to true color. So the two colors were just a little bit off from each other. The Yak U was just a little bit darker than the Fluff and Stuff. And so there is a very subtle marling, and it gives such a stunning dimension to this fabric. It's unbelievably beautiful. I am obsessed with the color of this sweater. I love it so much. The Oslo Sweater has a very thick double folded neckline, double folded collar, which I really, really like. I think it's such a beautiful design feature. I did shorten mine by a couple of rows compared to what the pattern called for, and I think it's plenty. I don't think it needed any more, so I'm very happy with that. And yeah, it's a drop shoulder. It's all just plain stockinette. Very simple pattern. There aren't any like exciting details on the shoulders or like anything like that. It is just plain stockinette, nice and simple. But the shaping in the sweater just gives it this absolutely stunning fit. The whole thing drapes on the body and just fits so nicely. And so to knit this, you start off by casting on stitches for the back panel, and you do short rows, I believe. It might be increases. I can't remember. I think you do increases along the back to shape the back panel. And then you pick up stitches along, for each of the front panels. And there are some decreases on each of the front panels to sort of shape the armhole and bring it in a little bit. And then it increases back out. And yeah, basically there's just a couple of different places where you do short rows and increases, and all of them are just very thoughtful, and they really give a lot of nice shaping and structure to the upper body and the shoulder area. It makes it fit very, very nicely. Once you join in the round, you don't cast on any extra stitches for under the armholes. You just cast on right away, or just join it right away. And then there is some slight decreasing in the body. So I don't know if you're gonna be able to notice, but there is a little slight taper. I don't think it's gonna show up with me holding it, but there is a slight taper to the body. You do, I think, 3 or 4 rounds of decreases, and it does just bring the body in just enough so that you don't feel like the sweater's truly oversized or baggy or overwhelming in a way like some oversized sweaters can feel. It just feels good. Like, it just feels like it fits so well. I don't feel like there's any extra fabric in places I don't want extra fabric. I don't feel like there's any like gappiness or bunching, or the sweater just feels like it fits me so well in a way that I don't feel like some of my other sweaters do. So in general, I highly recommend this pattern. It was, it's DK weight. The pattern calls for it to be knit on a US 4.5 needle. I used a US 4, so not a US 4. The pattern calls for it to be knit on a 4.5 millimeter needle, so US 7. I went down a needle size, so I knit the whole thing on a 4 millimeter needle, or US 6. I knit all of the ribbing, including the collar, the cuffs, the hem, using a US 2.5 or 3 millimeter needle, which is what the pattern called for the collar. But the pattern actually calls for a slightly bigger needle for the hem and the cuffs, and I just misread that part and used the small needle for everything. But I do really like the tension that I got on that. I like the tight ribbing in how neat it looks on all of this. So I don't regret that choice at all. I did do the Italian sewn bind off for all of the finishings. So that's the one where you do the double knitting for 2 rounds and then you do the sewn bind off. And it was my first time doing that technique. And I think it looks really nice. It's a very nice and full looking hem, and it looks very pretty. I'm not 100% sure if it's worth the extra step of doing the double knitting, but it is very nice, and I will admit that. So anything else? There were a couple of spots on this sweater that I ended up like snagging a stitch or dropping a stitch, or various things happened along the way. So there were some mistakes in this sweater. And a lot of that is due to the fact that this was my kind of mindless project. So I was working on it a lot while reading for school and doing homework and things like that. And I was noticing a lot of the mistakes later when I was like weaving in ends. And because I noticed these mistakes later, it meant that there was no like real way to fix them. Like I dropped a stitch, but I dropped the stitch in the middle of the body of the sweater, and I'd already bound off the hem. Like I was never gonna be able to like really go get that stitch back or anything by that point. So there are quite a few spots where I just like poked the mistake through and like to the back and secured it with some yarn in the back, or there's one spot where I kind of duplicate stitched over a mistake that I made after I secured everything down. And I was a little worried about those fixes showing in the sweater because it is plain stockinette. But I think because of how fluffy this yarn is and how fluffy the alpaca is, it hides a lot of these mistakes. And I honestly can't even find where I did any of these fixes without like looking inside the sweater for a woven my ends. Like I don't see them on the front at all anymore, which is really nice. I was a little worried. The other thing is in trying this on a little bit ago, which again, it is still damp. I need to lay it back out. But these sleeves did grow a little bit, and so they're probably about 1/2 inch longer than I would ideally like them to be. However, I still think they look nice. They hit like here on me, so it's like a nice oversized fit, but this is a sweater where I think I would have preferred them to be more like the back of my hand. So maybe more like a full inch too long. I'm not sure if it's enough for me to go back and fix it yet. I'm going to wear it for a little while and see how I feel. And if it ends up bothering me, I can always rip back and, you know, just rip out some of the stockinette, redo the hem. And it's not a huge deal. It'll be irritating, but we'll see. It's something I might fix in the future, but I'm not sure yet. For now, I do really like it. They are kind of like cozy sleeve length. Like they're not too big. They're just bigger than I meant for them to be, longer than I meant for them to be. But yeah. I think, oh, there was one modification that I made. Two modifications that I made to this sweater. So the first one is that I cropped it quite heavily. The sweater, I think, called for another couple of inches in the body, if I remember right. And I just felt like it was long enough. And so I did stop a couple inches short on the body, and then I did knit all of the ribbing about 1/2 inch shorter than it called for, just because I felt like the ribbing looked good compared to, you know, the proportions of the sweater. So if you follow the pattern directions, the sweater would be quite a bit longer in the body, and I don't think it's particularly cropped on me. So something to keep in mind if you're making the sweater, just pay attention to how long you're knitting it. I wouldn't recommend blindly following the pattern for dimensions on this one because it might get a little away from you. And then the other one is for all of the left-leaning decreases on this pattern, Petite Knit uses knit 2 together through the back loop. And that is just not a decrease that I prefer. I don't quite like the way it looks in the way I tension my yarn. It looks quite messy and just, it has a very weird twist in the stitch. And it was very noticeable to me. Like, I don't think anyone else would have ever noticed, but I just felt like I could really see it. And so I switched all of my left-leaning decreases to my preferred version, which is, it's not a slip knit. It's like I'll link a video to what I do, but you like go in through the first stitch knitwise, and then through the second stitch through the back loop, and then you pull your yarn through that hole and kind of, it's a little weird. It's like a one move left-leaning decrease, and I really like it, and I find that with my tension and the way I knit, it looks very neat, and it's been a vast improvement in my knitting, in my opinion. So I will link that video in all the places that I can link it here, so that way you can, if you want to play around with a new left-leaning decrease, you can. So I'm not sure what I would call that one. I don't remember if it has a name or anything, but I am not a fan of the knit 2 together through the back loop. So those are all of the adjustments, though. Everything else I did exactly to pattern. So I'm very happy. I could see knitting this sweater again. I could see knitting this as like a gift for someone. I think it's just a really, really well done basic. And I know it's no surprise I'm saying that. That's what Petite Knit is known for. But I don't know. I spent a long time wondering if she would really live up to the hype, and if she could really be as good as everyone says she is. And, you know, I guess I'm gonna say I think she is. I think she's really if this pattern is anything to judge by, she is an excellent designer, and I would recommend. And I can see myself knitting more things by her. So that's my Oslo sweater. I've rambled on about that one long enough, I think. I'm very excited for it to dry and for me to be able to wear it and get some use out of it. All right, my next finished object, or objects, there's technically 2 of them, but it's the same pattern. These are a bit of a surprise. So I'm filming this on Friday. I had the thought to knit these Wednesday morning. I picked out the yarn to knit them Wednesday at like 9 p.m. and cast on the first one at like 10 p.m. Like, this was not that long ago. And then by midday yesterday, so, you know, less than about half a day later, I had 2 of them totally done. So these got away from me a little bit. But I made the Rybka pouches. The Rybka pouch. I made 2 of them. These guys, these are my new favorite thing. I love these so much. They're so cute. Yeah, so I had the idea of making these for my nieces for Christmas. I have other things that I'm giving them, but I just thought it would be so cute to make them these little pouches, and then to get some like lip smackers, like chapsticks or something cute like that, and then put them in there and then hang them off the tree. And, you know, as we're opening gifts, I can go over and get them each their little fish. And then once I had the thought, I like immediately just had to do it. Like, I had to stop everything else I was doing and just make this happen. So the first one I did was this one. This is knit in some Knit Picks alpaca cloud fingering that I've had for years. And I believe it's in the color Algernon. And then I held it for the body of the fish with a strand of Miss Babs Moonglow, which is their silk mohair, in the colorway Ziggy Stardust, which I have left over from my Arthur cardigan. So, and I absolutely love it. I think the mohair in here really gives the like iridescent fish look so nicely. Like, it worked out so well. For all the finishings, like the connecting it along the edge and then the I-cord, I left out the mohair. And yeah, I'm just obsessed. This knit up so fast. So basically you knit the 2 halves separately, and then you seam them together, you crochet them together with a single crochet line along the edge. And then you sew down the inner, you know, the top like bit of it to make a holder for the I-cord, knit an I-cord, and it cinches it in. I use these little buttons that I also got at Lambtown for the eyes, which I really like. And I used the mohair to sew them in, so like it kind of looks like the pupil of the eyes is like a little different on each side, and little detail, it makes me really happy. So I will say the each of the bodies took me under an hour each to knit up. So like one episode of TV, I had a fish half knit, and those went really, really fast. It's a really fun pattern. It's easy. It's got a little bit of stockinette, a little bit of garter, and a little bit of twisted ribs, so you don't get bored. It's really nice. The part I struggled on pretty heavily was crocheting them together. And I think it's a combination of things. So one, I am not a crocheter. I have done almost no crochet. I can crochet like a chain forever, but that's it. And even then it takes me a long time and it doesn't look very good. My tension's just nonsense. However, this isn't hard to do. Like, this was only hard to do because it's me and I was just struggling. I got the hang of it eventually. Figuring out, like, being able to see where to pick up the stitches was just kind of hard with all the mohair that was happening. And then the yarn I was using, being that alpaca yarn from Knit Picks, was just very hard to deal with a crochet hook. I kept sticking the crochet hook through the yarn. It kept wanting to like bond with the mohair. It kept, like, it wasn't great and it was very frustrating. And if I'm looking at this, there are a couple of spots that I didn't do the neatest job with. There was actually one spot I went in and like actually sort of just fixed it after the fact and like added a couple stitches because it looked messed up. But that being said, like, the overall effect is good. Like, my niece isn't gonna look at this and be like, your crocheting isn't the best. And you know, like it's fine. I'm the only one who's gonna notice. But it took me longer to crochet it together than it did to knit the whole things. However, when I went to do the next one, by this point I'd practiced. This is knit with the leftover yarn from my Oslo Sweater, so it's the Yak U in the color Aquamarine, held with the same mohair. And I just love how different the mohair looks on the two different base yarns. I think it's really cool. And when I went to crochet this one together, it went probably twice as fast. And so with the different yarn, with knowing what I was doing, with having my technique down, it went significantly faster. And I can see that the more I make of these, the better I would get at crocheting them together. But yeah, the first one was a struggle. I had a hard time. The I-cord went nice and quick. I didn't have an issue with that. I used US 2.5 needles or 3mm for everything, except the I-cord I used a US 2, and that's just because I had some double pointed needles in a US 2, and I thought those would be easier to use than my like interchangeables with the long loop, and just a little less fiddly. And then yeah, like I said, sewed on the little eyes. So I'm so obsessed with these. I think I need one. Like, I really think I need one for my chapsticks that I hang off my purse. I did block both of them, and blocking helped them a lot. They were really cute before blocking, but the blocking really helped kind of flatten everything out and helped like the tail lay nicely. And I would, if you make these, recommend blocking them. And then per the pattern, I blocked the I-cord separately so I could really stretch it out and get it nice and straight, and then put it all together when it was done. Just in case you're curious and you go to knit these, the way you adjust the length, because there is, in theory, this is supposed to be the size for the AirPods case, and so it fits that pretty perfectly. I also think it makes a good chapstick case. And then she does have a length option for like a pencil case as well. And you just adjust it by knitting more of the garter stitch section. So she recommended 10 rows of garter for the AirPod case one. I did 12, and not really for any reason other than I accidentally knit 12. So, but I do really like the length. I think they're a good length. And I think I can fit at least 3 little chapsticks in it for my nieces, which I think is just a fun little like stocking stuffer-esque kind of gift, except that, you know, I'm not the one giving them stockings, but it's that like kind of like little cute Christmas gift idea. So, and they don't use very much yarn at all, so they're perfect for scrap yarn. And yeah, I'm obsessed. So those are my other finished object. All right, getting into whips. I have 3 whips to talk about, but one of them I can't show you, which I will explain in a moment. So my first one is actually half a finished object. So, however, it is a Christmas gift. So I don't believe that my sister-in-law watches this video, but Danielle, if you do watch, please stop watching for a little while. Just jump to the next project or something. Please don't watch. But I decided that we do Secret Santa in my family, and so I have my sister-in-law this year, and she is very much like a person who enjoys cozy things, and she enjoys reading and all things I can get on board with. And so this year I got her like a gift certificate to a bookstore and like other reading related things, but I thought I'd make her some socks so her feet stay warm while she's reading, because I know I love my hand knitted socks. So I whipped these up. These are just vanilla socks. I was gonna do a rib sock, but I just kind of needed some stockinette knitting in my life, and so I went with it. And then I just did the same vanilla sock that I did for my other pair of socks I knit this year, because I felt like a gift was maybe not the time to like experiment with new techniques. So my next pair of socks I make for myself, I want to try some new heel constructions and stuff, but I thought I'd just keep it simple for this pair. So I did do a 2x2 rib on the cuff. I added some little stripes in this green yarn, which I think is really cute. I think with the like wine purple and then the dark green, it's like almost Christmas palette, but it's not a Christmas palette. So it's like festive without being in your face. I did a German twisted cast on for the top of the cuff, which is just currently my favorite cast on. There's not like a huge rhyme or reason to it. It's nice and stretchy and I just enjoy doing it. And then yeah, went for a nice long leg, heel flap and gusset. I made the foot of the sock like maybe a ½ an inch too big for me, because my sister-in-law has similar sized feet to mine, but like just a little wider, but like not so wide that I wanted to go up to a 72 stitch sock. So I thought maybe just giving her a little extra length would help kind of counteract that, my plan is to let her know when I give it to her that if they don't quite fit, to let me know and I can knit her another pair, because I am enjoying knitting socks and I wouldn't mind excuse me, and I know that I could, I would wear these even though they're a little too big. They're still comfortable, so I will let her decide what she wants. If I need to replace them, I don't think I will. I think the fit's going to be fine. And then I went for the green on the toe as well, so just a little nice pop of color. I am excited to block these and see what they look like. And I did buy sock blockers, so I'll go grab those during the acquisitions. You guys, I feel like I'm moving up in the world. I'm getting all the tools that I need. So I got the first sock done, and I just got the leg of the second sock done. So I cast this one on last night, and I'm already ready to do the heel. So my hope is to get this done at the beginning of next week, like early next week. So, and that'll be the last of my gift knitting, so it'll be nice to just have it all off my plate. The pattern I'm using for these socks is the I'm So Basic sock by Summerly Designs. I've used this pattern before. It's the only sock pattern I've ever knit at this point. And I'm knitting it in Knit Pick Stroll Tweed in the colorway Barn Door Heather, and then the accents are in the same yarn in the color Sequoia Heather. So I'm really enjoying this yarn. I really like Knit Pick Stroll. It's a very nice yarn. It's very affordable. So, but yeah, I'm hoping she likes those, and I'm hoping they fit, and hope I should have that second sock done soon. I'm weirdly been like dragging my feet on weaving in ends in all of my knits lately, and so we'll see. I'm glad I have the deadline for Christmas, because otherwise I feel like I would never actually finish these, because every time I pick up the done sock to weave the ends in, I just like look at it and sigh and put it down and walk away, because I don't know, I'm having some weird thing with weaving in my hands and I don't know what it is. My next whip has been a long time whip on the channel. I have some, I don't know, maybe advice. Maybe I need some advice. Maybe I just need to vent. Could go either way. I'm not totally sure. But this is my, ignore the clinking needles. They're just gonna be clinky, I think. But this is my Kip Sweater by Rybka Pouch, the Crayabea. This is knit in Knit Pick's High Desert Sport wool in the colorway Mountain Bluebird. It's this is an all over textured pattern. Obviously, it's got this lovely herringbone pattern that's all done in slip stitches, and I absolutely love the color of this yarn. It is beautiful. I did get the color done. I went with, ooh, it's kind of bunchy back here. Hopefully that blocks out. But I went with the folded collar option, and I did go with twisted rib, which was something that a friend of mine also making this pattern did, and I really liked the look of it, so I just straight up copied her. So thank you, Katie. And yeah, it has this lovely like lateral braid detail on the collar as well. That was interesting to knit. So here's where I'm at with this pattern. I'm ready to do the ribbing on the bottom hem, and I broke my yarn because this is easily feltable yarn, so I can come back and add another ball. And I moved on to the collar, and I wanted to do the sleeves and then come back and do the hem so I can make sure I'm really happy with the length. And I kind of wanted to do a mid-project block before I did the hem too, because this is an oddly stretchy fabric that this yarn and pattern combo makes, and I just wanted to make sure that I kind of knew what dimensions I was working with. So my plan was to knit both sleeves also to the ribbing, have everything on like, lifelines, block it, and then knit all my ribbing afterwards. However, when I went to pick up the sleeve, first of all, picking up stitches in this fabric is a absolute pain in the butt. It's difficult. It's incredibly difficult to see where to pick up stitches. If you're not careful, it's very easy to make holes in the fabric. I was unable to figure out how to pick up the number of stitches that Rybka called for in the pattern for the size that I'm making. And so I just picked up for like one size up, which I think would have been fine, but I've never had that problem before. I've never like not been able to get the stitch count or like get anywhere near it. Like it was just off. I don't know. I was having a hard time with it. I was getting frustrated. But I picked up the stitches and it was, you know, gonna be fine. But when you knit the sleeves, this is a drop shoulder construction, but like Rybka calls it a baby drop shoulder, so it doesn't come all the way down your shoulder. And because of that, she has some short rows in the sleeve to sort of make a little bit of a sleeve cap to bring it down your arm. And so I went to go do the short rows, and there isn't a lot of instruction on how to do the short rows. Like, it tells you how many stitches to do each short row, like past your double stitch when you make the double stitch for your German short row. And it just says to do it in pattern. And I was like, okay, we'll figure it out. It's going to be fine. However, when I did that, I pretty quickly came up on a spot where I needed to do a double stitch on a slipped stitch in the pattern, which didn't make sense to me. And so I sort of fudged it and just did the double stitch in a different spot. But then the pattern wasn't lining up for me. And so you work in pattern up to the top of the sleeve, and you work a little past, and then you do your short row, and then short rows from there going further and further. And as far as I can tell, the short rows are never going to line up again with that first row that you did in the pattern, because it's not progressing at all the same way that the other parts are. If that makes sense. I might not be explaining that well, but it immediately got off pattern in a way that I was confused by. And the more I've thought about it, the more I think when I do this again, I might just do half a round in stockinette up to the top so that I'm not getting off pattern there. It still doesn't resolve my issue with needing to do short row to make double stitches on slip stitches. That is still confusing to me. And so I don't know if I would just not slip the stitch there and I would just knit it, and you know, there will just be slight variations in the pattern along the top of my sleeve, and I just live with that. But I don't know, I guess I really wish that there was more detail in this pattern. If this was plain stockinette and you, like, there wasn't a pattern at all, I feel like it'd be totally fine with you just telling me to kind of, you know, bare bones how to do the short rows and all that. And that would be fine. I get that. But in the pattern, I do feel like it's a little bit more complicated. And the way she created the pattern, every size should be doing the short rows very similarly. Like, every size should be in the same place in the pattern doing the short rows. It's just that bigger sizes would need to do more. So I feel like she could have very easily written it out in more detail and provided that, and it would have been okay. I don't know. I'm not trying to complain too much, because I still think this is creating an absolutely beautiful piece. And I'm okay with the challenge of needing to figure this out. This is the first time in a knitting pattern that, like, I needed to, like, walk away for a minute. Like, I got kind of stumped and I got a little frustrated, and I ended up just setting it down and working on some other projects for a little while. And then it got into December and I needed to get some gift knitting done and work on a couple of other, like, time crunch based things that popped up. And so this has just been sitting for a while. I mean, it's just a little bit of a shame, because I think the finished garment is going to be stunning. So I don't know. If you've knit this and you have any insight on what's going on with my sleeves and why I'm having issues, I would appreciate the help. Or if you just want to, you know, maybe some words of encouragement might help. I feel weird asking for that, but if you have any insight to give me or any advice, I would really appreciate it, because like I said, this is one of the first times I've come up on a pattern and really ended up a little bit frustrated with it like this. And yeah, I'd like to not leave it at that spot. Like, I would like to finish a sweater. It might be next year that it gets finished, and I'm okay with that. It's fine. It might be a January project. But that's my Kip sweater, and that's where that one's at. All right, so my last whip is the one that I can't show you. And the reason for that is it is a sample knit for Lauren of Treehouse Knits. And so I am knitting the Ponderosa sweater by Wool and Pine for her, but it is in an unreleased yarn, and so I cannot show you the color. And so it will not be coming up, but I did want to talk a little bit about the pattern, because it is a really interesting pattern. So I'll put up a picture of the pattern for you. And so the Ponderosa sweater is a cabled sweater. It's knit in fingering weight yarn at a fairly open gauge. So I believe the stockinette gauge is 22 stitches per 4 inches, and it's knit on US 5 needles. It's fairly open. So I wasn't really able to get gauge on the US 5s, but I was really close. So I was just under 23 stitches. Like, I'm like 1 stitch off. It's right there. And so I ended up just kind of accommodating and casting on a few extra stitches where I needed to. For the cable pattern, I felt like it was more important for me to reach the gauge on that. And so I did go up a needle size and I knit the cable section on a US 7, which is 1 needle size up from what the pattern called for. Now this sweater is knit in panels. So you knit the front panel and the back panel, block them and seam them together, leaving a spot for the arms. And then you pick up for the arms and you knit those in the round. There's no shaping on this at all, so you just knit a rectangle for both the front and the back. And then the back panel is knit a little longer than the front panel, and so that helps the collar from riding up in the front. You seam the tops together, and so you can sort of adjust how the neckline looks if you want like a full boat neck or if you want it a little closer. It has a split hem in the back, which you get by just not seaming all the way down. And then the front has this sort of U shape to it, which I was really curious how that happened, but it's done entirely in blocking. So basically when you knit this, when you go to block this, you have to pin it out, and you pin out the front and the back at the same time, and you make sure that the edges of the front match up with the length of the edges of the back, but you don't pin down the middle part of it. And so it will dry with this very, I think very flattering U shape to the front of it. So I'm actually really interested to see how that works out. I don't think this is like a sweater construction I would have picked out on my own, just because knitting flat and seaming and with the open gauge, and like there are a lot of parts of this pattern that are not necessarily my favorite to knit. However, I am really intrigued to see how it's gonna work out. So I am really happy for the opportunity to knit this. I also am really enjoying working with Treehouse Knits yarn. It's stunning, guys. I can't wait until I can show you pictures of this because it's so beautiful. Oh my gosh, it's her yak silk fingering yarn, which I've never worked with before, and it's so nice to work with. It's so soft, just like a little bit shiny. It's beautiful. Oh my gosh. But yeah, so I am on deadline for this. I need to have it in the mail for her no later than January 6th. I'm hoping to have it a bit earlier than that so that I'm not stressed. But it has been taking up quite a bit of my time. And so right now I am on the back panel, which is just stockinette stitch, but it's stockinette stitch flat, so there's a lot of purling. And it is in that more open gauge. And I just find that knitting more open gauges like that, like keeping my tension nice and neat is just a little bit harder. And I tend to want to drop stitches more often. It tends to feel a little slippery and slidey on my needles, and it's not my favorite, but I do think it's going to be this like kind of unbelievably stunning finished object, like just super drapey and beautiful. So I'm excited to see that knit up. But yeah, that's my like secret work in progress that I'm not allowed to talk. Well, I'm allowed to talk about it. I'm not allowed to show anyone. So happy about that. All right, and with that, I want to get into a few acquisitions. I don't have any yarn, but I did end up with a few exciting things that are not yarn. So first up, I bought on sale. It was during the Knit Pick sale. They had a day with like extra big discounts and free shipping and all this. And so I did buy a pattern book, which is Vertex, and it's a Knit Picks pattern book, and it's all intarsia patterns. And I've never done intarsia, but I did just think it was absolutely stunning. So there's ones like that, which I think is really pretty. That's the one on the cover. Let's see if I can get one of these without. This one is like the reason I bought the book. I think that is the prettiest t-shirt. Like, oh my gosh, I love it so much. And I love it in that color, the black, white, and red. Like, there's a chance I wouldn't change that at all, or I would just change like the order of them. I'm not sure. This is another one that I really think I might knit, but the blocked pullover, I have yarn in stash that I am contemplating for this one, but it's really pretty with the color blocking, and it's got these very flattering set-in sleeves, and I really like that one. Let's see. There's a lot in here. It's a really, really beautiful pattern book. and I'm very excited to get into it. Like I said, I've never done intarsia, but I feel like all of these are fairly doable projects with, you know, there's nothing too crazy going on in them. Very simple constructions and just, you know, a chance to play with color, which I'm into. I love color. But yeah, so that was one acquisition. I'm very excited about this. I don't know when I'll knit anything in it, but I think it was like $5 for the entire book, so it felt very worth it. And then the most exciting acquisition. My husband gave me my Christmas present very, very early because I was excited for it. I wasn't gonna take it, but I kind of needed to use it that night, and so I already knew. He just gave it to me. But I got a yarn winder. I'm so excited. I have spent so many hours of my life winding yarn by hand and then chasing those wound balls around my house as they get knocked all around, and this thing makes me so happy. This is the Stanwood yarn winder, and I picked this one out. It's mostly metal. It's a very sturdy, very solid yarn winder, and I just felt like if I was going to go for it, I wanted to go for something that was going to, you know, hold up over time in a very nice way, and it had all good reviews. And so far, I'm very, very happy with it. I went on a little yarn winding spree the first night I had it and had no problems. I was very happy with it. And then to go with that, he got me the kit, or the set that came with their Swift. And so this is the Swift all broken down. It's gonna be hard to show you because it gets a little big. Oh, and I don't have the pins right now. So basically there are little wooden dowels. There's a wooden dowel that goes in here, and this goes on the wooden dowel. And then you put the wooden dowels in the holes at the top to pick, you know, to loop your yarn around. And then the whole thing breaks down nice and small like this. So it's all wood. There's no like plastic or metal parts. There's nothing that needs to that can break really. So I really like that design, and I like the low profileness of it. I've been using, my main place to wind yarn is on our coffee table, and so it's kind of perfect for that, and I really like it. And I do like too that I don't have to attach the Swift to the table as well as the yarn winder, because we just don't have a lot of spots in our house that have lips like that to attach things to. So I'm really, really happy with the design and the quality, and again, very excited. This is I feel like a real knitter at this point. I've got the yarn winder. I don't know why. I feel like that's the moment where I'm like, oh my gosh, I've arrived. I am a knitter now, for real. And I get that that's very silly, and you can be a knitter without the yarn winder. And I don't think you need a yarn winder. Don't get me wrong. I've wound yarn by hand for years, and it's okay. But also the luxury of it is so fantastic. All right, and then one more acquisition. So these are nothing special, but I did go ahead and pick up some sock blockers. I got a medium size and a large size, and the only reason I went for it is because I figured if I was going to start gifting socks, that I should probably take the time to actually block them. If I'm making socks for myself, I'm still pretty okay with, not blocking them and just wearing them, and it's pretty okay. But for gifts, this made sense to me, so I did pick some up. I thought I'd show you guys. I went with this style because I just feel like they're sturdy and simple, and I don't know, I just didn't need anything fancier than this. I like these. Okay. I'm sorry, I feel like this episode's getting a little away from me, but I just feel like I had a lot to talk to you guys about. I haven't sat down to knit or to film for a while, and so yeah, I needed to get you guys all caught up on what's going on in my life. So I want to get into some future plans now. I've got quite a few coming up. So before we get into coming up plans, I just want to do a really quick recap on what happened with my fall knitting plans. So if you watched that video, I had several plans that were absolutely going to happen 100%. And then I had a bunch of would be nice plans, and I'm not going to even touch the would be nice plans. The spoiler alert is I didn't get to any of them. So it's fine. We're just going to leave those behind. But my absolute want to knit plans were the Kip Sweater by Rybka Pouch, the Citrine jumper by Vert Knit, and the Cargill Cowl also by Rybka Pouch. So, as you've seen, I did not finish the Kip Sweater. I got pretty far, but we hit speed bumps and it didn't happen. The Cargill Cowl did happen. That one I finished up in like a couple days. It was a lovely knit. I haven't worn it yet, which I would love to wear that out and get a feel for how it like functions. But for now, it is just, you know, I did knit it. I did succeed at that one. And then the Citrine jumper did not happen because I ended up really needing to knit more stockinette projects this last few months, just with other things going on in my life. However, I did block for it, or not block for it, swatch for it. And I do love this pattern still. And I love the way it looks on this yarn. And I think it's absolutely stunning. This is yarn that I got in Flock. It's U2 Yarns Mellow DK in the Flock 24 colorway copper. And yeah, I do think it is absolutely stunning. And I still really would like to knit this, but it did not happen. Instead, I ended up knitting my Oslo Sweater, so it just got replaced. In addition to those plans, I also knit 2 other cowls, 1 hat, and I finished a blanket. So like I got a lot of knitting done, but a lot of it wasn't in the plans. And then I think I'm losing the light, so I'm gonna try and go through this really fast. So hopefully this isn't too crazy. But with that in mind, that I was kind of like maybe 50-50 on my fall plans, I did just kind of want to look ahead at the next couple of months. So I don't know if this is like my full winter plan list or if it's, you know, just the next couple of things I want to cast on and just, you know, getting myself excited for them. So the first one is the Citrine jumper by Vert Knit. I still very much would like to knit this. I have gauged perfectly with this yarn. This yarn is a joy to knit with. It is absolutely beautiful. You can see it was part of my cake fest when I got my yarn winder. So I'm still very, very excited to knit this. It is still very much in my plans. I would really, really like it for this winter. So the Citrine jumper by Vert Knit, very much so a winter plan. The other one that I'm very excited to cast on, and I've talked about it quite a bit, is the Cognac sweater by Atelier Castin. So I also swatched for this one. This is knit up using, oh, what are the yarns? Let's see, we've got, this is the Truffle Cashmere by Treehouse Knits in the colorway, let's see, I'm Not Broken, Just a Little Chipped. This is it's like a heavy lace weight, very, very light fingering weight. And it is 81% superwash merino wool and 19% cashmere. And it is so soft and fluffy and luxurious. And then holding that with Witchfire Fibers. This is her cashmere sock base in the colorway Ebb. Yes, Ebb. This is part of her Duality collection that she did with ZZ Textiles, and yeah, I think these two together is just stunning. And I feel like you get this almost like kind of denim-y or like greenish teal blue, like it's got this very nice like muted color to it. It's coming out a little blown out in the lighting I have right now, but it's really pretty and it's really soft. And this is knit on very large needles. I think it's US 10, so it's very drapey, and I think this one's going to get cast on pretty much as soon as I finish the Ponderosa sweater. So my other plan is I'm gonna knit more socks. So I've got at least 2 more pairs of socks that I would like to knit as gifts for people, and all of the socks are going to just be some combination of these stroll colors. So I've got more of the Barn Door Heather, I've got the Sequoia Heather, and then I've also got Flagstone Heather. And so I'll just be mixing and matching these along, and I ultimately need to have 2 more pairs of socks done sometime soon-ish. It doesn't need to be by Christmas, because the people I'm giving these to I won't see before Christmas, but they're technically Christmas gifts, so those are definitely like 100% plans. I'm just gonna do vanilla socks. At most I might do a rib sock. It won't be anything crazy. And then I've got 2 more. upcoming plans. One, this is also a Christmas gift, but it's for my husband. So he will understand if it's a little late, but I'd like to keep it from being too late. Like I'd like to maybe have it done by the end of January. But I bought this yarn for him at the Boonville Fiber Fair. Not Fiber Fair, it was a little fiber fair earlier this year. And this is 100% alpaca, and he picked it out himself. It's this really beautiful dark grayish brown, or dark brownish gray, however you want to say it. And I promised him I would knit a scarf with it. And so I would like to just get him that scarf this season so that he has something to, you know, keep him warm and cozy. And so I'm not 100% sure what pattern I want to do with this yet. I did actually start knitting the mini herringbone scarf by... I'm sorry, this is the episode where I just can't think of words. I know all of them, but yeah. But yeah, the mini herringbone scarf by Pearl Soho. But this yarn had almost no stitch definition when I tried to do that pattern. And so it just looked a little muddy and I wasn't liking the effect. So I need to play around with it a little more. I'm kind of thinking worst case scenario, I just do like a seed stitch scarf. I think would look quite nice. It'd be a pain in the butt, honestly, but it would be very pretty. Or yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of shopping around on this one, but I'd like to get it done sometime soon. I feel like this is probably about a DK weight, maybe a little thinner. It's a little hard to tell, but it's lovely. But it is 100% alpaca. So, and it is a 2-ply and it's got kind of a heathery look. So it doesn't have fantastic stitch definition, but yeah, that one needs to happen soon as well, because he's amazing and he deserves a scarf. So. And then last but not least, this is for myself. This would be a quick project, but I want to make some fingerless mitts to match the hat that I knit a couple months ago, maybe a month ago. So this is more yarn that I got in Boonville, and this is 50% merino, 50% alpaca, and this is sort of in the worsted weight range, this really lovely gray color. And so I wanted to make a pair of fingerless mitts to match my hat, and the hat is cabled. And so the mitts that I thought would be the best fit were the Simplex mitts by Kristina Tyla. And they're just nice and simple, and they have a really pretty cable on the back of the hand. So those would take me a couple days. So once I get through all my Christmas knits, I will probably cast those on and just knock them out. But yeah, I accidentally washed my other pair of fingerless mitts, and they fell into the laundry pile, got washed and felted, so I genuinely do need a replacement pair. But yeah, so those are all my upcoming plans. It's a lot of them. I don't know. I feel kind of uncomfortable making like actual seasonal knit plans. I feel like I have a hard time gauging how much I can knit in 3 months, and then having those plans over my head is like almost a little stressful in a weird way that I can't explain. So I kind of like this idea of just when I get to sort of a natural transitioning point with the patterns I already have, just stopping and seeing what the next ones on my to-do list are, and not necessarily giving like a strong timeline. My guess is this is pretty much a winter list, but I just don't know, and I'm not going to put like a deadline on any of them. But these are the things I have in my head for right now, and I have the yarn for all of them, and I am currently very excited and or need these, so... with that being said, I have fully lost the light. I don't know if you guys can tell. I don't know how bad it is looking on screen, but it is like actually straight up dark outside. So I'm gonna call it here before it gets any worse. And I can also hear myself starting to lose my voice. So thank you for hanging out with me. I know this is a little bit of a longer episode. I'm curious what your winter plans are, or how you plan. Because like I said, I think I'm learning that I don't necessarily like seasonal planning, but I do like having a sense of my plan for any given moment, if that makes sense. So how do you guys approach that? Because I'm still trying to figure it out for myself. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this. This has been so much fun. I promise I will get down and talk to you guys, or sit down and talk to you guys sooner than like the 3 or 4 weeks in between that this one went, because I genuinely missed filming these and chatting with you guys, and you know, reading and interacting in the comments. So hopefully I'll be back soon with another episode and we can keep chatting. But yeah, this has been great. Thank you so much for sitting with me. I hope you're having a great day, and I hope you got some knitting in. Bye.